You're listening to the Aware and Thriving podcast. I'm Selena Vigue, your host, and I'm so excited to bring you a space to inspire and empower your personal growth. Aware and Thriving is where we cultivate self-awareness by learning from the inspiring stories of resilience and expertise shared by others. Together, let's grow, thrive, and create the best versions of ourselves. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies strength, grit, and intentional living. Joining me is Jada McNamara, fitness trainer, founder of Live Purpose Driven, and all-around powerhouse. Jada helps people build strength not just in their bodies, but in their purpose, guiding them to live with alignment, energy, and resilience. She's also a competitive athlete who's tackled multiple high rocks competitions and just recently crushed the triple bypass road bike race. That's 118 miles, 10,800 feet of elevation gain across 3 major mountain passes with barely any training. We're diving into what drives her, how she builds strength from the inside out, and how to stay aligned with your purpose even when life gets steep. Let's get into it.
Look at that. Yeah. Like, shit, you know all of my secrets.
I know.
Shit,
Can I tell you hard?
Yeah. I swear? Okay.
Yeah, I swear all the time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
I'm happy you're here. From the first time I met you, I was in awe of how you put yourself out there in the world. You run a walking group called Purpose Driven Walks. And that first walk that I did with your group was really connecting, getting to know everybody, and then hearing more about your story about how you were on the verge of quitting one of your jobs that you'd been at for a long time and moving into putting yourself out there and driving your own business was really inspiring. So I thought you'd be an incredible person to chat with today.
Damn. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the walk club was like, selfishly, I was new to Denver and just wanted to meet people. And plus, it's funny, it's a little ironic because I do run now, but at the time I was like super anti-cardio and anti-running, and everyone was starting run clubs. I was like, everyone is going to these run clubs because they just want like community. I'm like, no one wants to run and huff and puff. You know what I mean?
So true.
So I'm like, why can't we just walk? And I love coffee, and I want to create a space that people actually can fully feel like seen and heard and, connected.
And you told me a little bit then about your business, Purpose Driven. And so I have some questions about it. And I want to know what inspired you to create Live Purpose Driven?
So I'm trying to figure out the best way. There's so many ways I could go about it. I originally dealt with some trauma. And in those times, honestly feeling like things were happening to me and I didn't have control over situations. So honestly, really just feeling a victim in my life. And I really valued my relationships and connections. And one of my older brothers introduced CrossFit to me. And it was so weird. Every day I would go into the gym and I would just destroy myself in a workout, and I would always finish laying on the ground, huffing and puffing, all sweaty, and it was the most empowering experience every single time. Funny enough, the pursuit of physical strength made me feel stronger emotionally and mentally as well. And so I saw that and I was like, I want other people to feel that way, and other people who are feeling like victims, I want to show them that they do have a power in their situation. Obviously, we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can rewrite the narrative and we can choose how we respond to, the things in our life.
Absolutely.
And basically, for me at a low point in my life where I was dealing with a lot of pain, I was like, I can give this pain purpose. Also with that, my mom, she used to be a correctional officer at a prison, and she taught a book called The Purpose Driven Life to her inmates. And the book is basically giving your life meaning and being intentional with everything you do versus just going through and, but actually walking in your purpose. So yeah, that's kind of where the name came from.
I love how much meaning that has for you.
I mean, because I think shitty things happen all the time. And we really are faced with the choice. And I think sometimes it is important to really sit with the shittiness of our pain, because shit does happen, but also really leaning into that, being, what can I learn from this experience? What can I do with this,
100%. And something I really took away from grad school and becoming a therapist was learning about narrative and the narrative that we all give to our experiences, like the meaning behind it. And oftentimes, the narrative that you give to your experience is what determines how you're going to survive, thrive, or kind of break down from that experience. And it also determines the amount of pain that you're going to experience, for how long you're going to experience it. So it really resonates with me that you can take that pain, and when you give it purpose, when you change the narrative and kind of like choose the narrative that you want to have for it, that you can really change your life.
Yeah, and I mean, I've watched others who've gone through similar. I mean, all of our experiences are so different, but to your point, it is kind of crazy how what you do with it. But I have watched people that I care about not handle it the same way, and seeing how now they are, angry and have grudges, and, it's almost destroying them because of it, because they chose a different narrative. But I will say, I have now like realized that I almost overcompensated in that direction. So like I feel like when all of these things, these traumatic events happened, I was so quick to be like, oh, I have to give purpose to this pain. Like I have to I can't be stuck in this. And so I like leaned so far the opposite direction where I think I told myself that I couldn't have that pain or I couldn't feel the pain. And now I've noticed like in my adult life, there's times where something shitty will happen and I'll be like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It will be great. I'll make the best of it, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's so invalidating. My needs are almost being neglected because I'm so quick to be like, get over it. You know what I mean?
100%. I think you said a lot of important things there. And the first was choice, that seeing what others chose to do with it. And I think that's a piece that people forget or don't acknowledge often, that the way that you handle it, the narrative and purpose that you give something is a choice. And people don't recognize the power that they have in that. And
Yeah.
I too am like, have been guilty of being like, nope, I'm going to logic my way right out of this. I don't need to sit there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think for me, that's exactly what it looked like. Is like, okay, in my head I could have gone, again, a lot of these traumatic events happened when I was younger. So it was like in my head, I could have gone the wrong way of like getting into drugs or alcohol or partying, whatever it is. And like I swung the direction of health and fitness. And it's funny because in my head, I'm like, oh, like I'm good. I could have gone down that bad path, but I didn't and found health and fitness. And everyone always praised me for that I turned out, okay. But what's funny is my health and fitness was my drugs and alcohol, where it turned into an abuse still, and it was still a vice. And yeah, so I'm learning more recently where even though in my head I chose a different life, I was still struggling. It was coming out in a different way of wanting to have control over certain things and clinging to, diet and exercise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I've seen the overcompensation of I thought I was doing okay, but still had these things over here that I was doing.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something that's really prevalent in the fitness community in this ways. Sometimes it seems like, and let me know if this is your experience with others too, they're kind of hiding or running from something by staying so busy.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I always joke, like, for the bike ride, for example, like people ask me, because I'll tell them, I'm like, I had no business doing that bike race. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but everyone will be like, why'd you do it? I'm like, because I hate myself, and it's a joke. Like, I don't actually hate myself, but I do think there's some truth to that of like it's almost you're addicted to something about that experience, kind of, and yeah, I like to do hard things, but like, why do I like to do hard things? There's an underlying, there's issues there,
Yeah.
But At least I'm aware. But I do know some of the top people, there is no balance in their life. And the ones that are extreme tend to have some other lingering things going on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we all do in some way, some shape or form.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing extreme sports, whether, I mean, a lot of therapists too are like on their own like self-healing journey.
Yeah.
And I think we're all, at the end of the day, I think we're all truly searching for that purpose and like meaning and what makes us feel safe and whole.
Yeah.
And I also want to know, how do you mentally prepare for something as intense as High Rocks or the triple bypass?
Mentally, that's a good question because I don't know that I actually think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Maybe that's what gets you through it.
yeah, exactly. Just like avoiding it.
Yeah.
Which like,
Just do it.
yeah, ironically, I am kind of avoidant with some of my like thought processes, but I think like I like to think about, it's not about the outcome of like completing the race, you know, it's who am I becoming as I'm doing it. So I like, get excited about that. I'm like, oh, with this bike race, like it's gonna suck. I know it's gonna suck. And you know what? There was a lot of dread before it, especially because I was on vacation like the whole week before.
Yeah, can we back up? Because I read your Instagram post the other day and I was
Yeah.
like, this is nuts. Can you just tell everybody, recap how you started biking or when you started biking and how you prepared for this race or didn't?
Yeah. You mean lack of? Yeah, well, so actually, so when I moved to Colorado, I had two goals. One, that I wanted to become a little biker girly.
Oh, okay.
And second, that I wanted to camp. Super, like, kind of silly, but
No, very Colorado.
yep, very Colorado. It fits. But yeah, my friend was selling her hybrid bike, and like, I know nothing about bikes at all, but she was selling it to me, so I knew it was good. It was gonna be cheap, and then I had someone I could just like casually go on bike rides with and whatever. So I bought this bike and just went on a few rides around Denver, casual. And she also, my friend, she was training for an Ironman at the time. And so she's pretty acclimated to biking. Her biking fitness levels superior to mine. But I was wanting to like get more involved in it, and she had mentioned that there's this race, triple bypass. She was like, yeah, it's just a casual day of biking, you know, like
That's how she presented
she
it?
seriously did. She was like, you stop and get lunch and you kind of just hang out. You usually do it in a group and like whatever. And I was like, yeah, probably not. Like, I'm really new to this and I'm getting my ass kicked by you. Like, probably not, whatever. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, well, plus I'm traveling the full week before. It would be fun. This would be a way to like push me to get more into my biking era.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah. And then she's like, well, what if I give you a free ticket? And I was like, so I'm done. I'll do it. So knew nothing about it other than that, like it was a full day situation, but like again, casual, you kind of just hang out, you get to stop and rest, whatever. Well, I very quickly realized that that wasn't the case.
I'd be so mad at this girl.
Oh my gosh, you know what? It's funny because like she has talked me into doing so many things that I just, you know, again, don't even think about. I just say yes to, and I've never once like been upset with her. It's like more like me, like why did I do this to myself?
Why didn't I maybe Google something?
Yeah, no, exactly. But so with the triple bypass, part of it is you complete 3 mountain summits. Like you go over 3 mountain summits. The first one is Juniper. So I practiced Juniper, and it took me like 2.5 hours to get to summit. Like I'm just biking very slowly up this mountain. And then I'm like, okay, I should probably do one of these summits. So I did the summit. It took me like 2.5 hours to get up. Very horrible, like legs on fire. And as soon as I did that pass or that summit, I realized like, shit, not only do I have to do this again, I have to do it 2 more times because there's 2 more passes.
Okay.
And the bike ride that I did up the pass was 30 miles. 15 of it is up the mountain, 15 of it is down the mountain. So I get to like fly down the mountain for 15 miles of it, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But with a triple, it's 118 miles. So I'm like, this is crazy. I started doing summits anytime I could.
Like, what goes through your mind during the hardest parts of an event like that?
Well, every time I thought about how much my body hurt, I like wanted to cry. But really, like, yeah, I'm just kind of focusing on what I'm doing, and I mean, it's obviously like a beautiful ride, but throughout the experience, there's different things that come up. Like, yeah, like obviously I'm looking forward to being done and like anticipating that, but really the whole reason we do these things is to embrace the suck and to kind of sit in that.
What role does self-talk play in your training and performance in something like this?
Yeah. What do you mean by self-talk?
I guess just like the voice in your head, how you talk to yourself, how you speak to yourself, how do you encourage yourself? Is it kind? Is it mean?
That's so funny that I so like, I mean, you're probably not gonna believe me to say this. I don't know that I really think about anything.
That's okay.
It's almost like I'm blacking out.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
And so, like, I don't know, that's probably not healthy either, but yeah, there's not a lot of self-talk. There's belief, like, for sure. I mean, over the years, with everything else that I've chosen to deal with, or the hard things that I've chosen to put myself in, somehow I have always gotten through it. And so there's this confidence that I've built up, like, over these years, as cheesy as it sounds, is like I can overcome hard things, like,
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and not only am I going to get through it, I will be stronger because of it. So that's the overall view that I have on it, or the perspective of myself. But otherwise, as I'm doing it, maybe it's just clinging on to that identity that I can do it, but no, blacked out, not really thinking much.
You're just like, this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were so many times where I thought about crying, and I totally would have let myself cry, you know, on the bike, but I would start to, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm over it now, you know? But yeah, no, it's really weird. It's kind of like,
It kind of just sounds like extreme presence.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Or avoidance.
Yeah.
Not
Presence,
sure.
avoidance. Who's to say
Yeah.
which one it is?
Yeah.
We don't know. Whatever gets you through it.
Yeah. Yeah, which I'm kind of making this connection right now after what we said about how I almost invalidated the pain that I had during these traumatic experiences. It's interesting now how I like specifically put myself in situations where I'm suffering, you know?
Interesting. You know, I actually talked to my own therapist about this a few weeks ago. And it was something like, I always need a reason to cry.
Yeah.
And so when I was little, I would make up these scenarios in my head and I would imagine someone I cared about dying
Yeah.
and I would cry and then I'd be fine. And it would be so random. And we talked about that and it was more like maybe because sometimes for me, I wouldn't show emotion when I was younger. I didn't always feel safe to be emotional. That in my head, I did a reason
Yeah.
to justify needing to express that much emotion.
Yeah. The reasons themselves, like, did you just not feel like they were enough, or?
It might just be that I was like upset or sad about something, but if I expressed it, there may have been like a negative outcome or it may have
Sure.
made someone else feel bad. So in order to avoid that, I would just like hold it in or
Yeah.
like shut it down. And then later on, I didn't like maybe imagine these situations and maybe me needing to cry was connected to what I had kind of shut down in the past. And now I like think that I'm over here crying about this like fixed scenario in my head, but really
Yeah.
it's just old emotion that got
Right.
repressed and needed to be expressed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've kind of learned the hard way, like, eventually they need to be expressed. Yeah. And again, like, whether that is your vice, disordered eating, drugs, like, it does come out in other ways. And like, sometimes I feel like we're not even aware of it, you know?
100%. I think most of us are not aware of it at all.
Yeah. I mean, it took me a long time to figure out, oh, yeah, my relationship with fitness isn't always healthy, you know?
Yeah. What was it like realizing that?
I realized that diet and exercise served as a way for me to have control over my life. And it's funny because I always had these habits, even early on, but then I competed in a bodybuilding competition. And then these habits were almost amplified. Then I was like, bodybuilding made me have all of these unhealthy relationships with food and exercise and whatever. And then I like was looking at it, I'm like, actually, I think they've always been there. It's just like this process kind of exposed them in a way that's now making me have to deal with it, you know? But it was almost comical because I'm like, damn, this has been in front of me the entire time. And I like to consider myself a self-aware person. And I've been in therapy on and off. And like I felt I've, you know, worked through a lot and grieved and whatever. And so it's crazy. I learned this about myself when I was 25 years old. So it was crazy that it took me this long after all these years to like, realize that this is the one thing that let me feel like I had control over my life is like controlling me, kind of, you know?
When I hear you talk about it, it almost sounds like you resent it in a way. Maybe I'm picking up on that wrong.
I just took it to the extreme, you know? And I mean, anything you do that's extreme is like no longer healthy. And so then kind of being real with myself and being like, okay, why am I doing this? Is it because it makes me feel better? Am I coping? Is this me trying to take control? But I had to like, take things like scale it back and really look at everything and kind of evaluate how I want to make new habits basically around health and fitness, you know.
What helped you stop and ask questions and get curious about the health of it all?
Actually, so again, it all goes back to like having control over things. And what made me really lean into it was the fact that I was losing relationships over it. And it was causing a lot of issues in my relationships.
How much you were working out?
No, the control. Okay, for example, in bodybuilding prep, I was tracking everything I was eating and obviously lower cal for a lot of it too. And there's this weird mindset. I always say this damn word wrong. Scarcity, where like you almost fear that there's not going to be enough of it, kind of like enough food. And I remember I was in prep and there was a situation where I was going on vacation with my friend. And in my head, I was like, okay, I was going to just relax and then like eat what I want a little bit. And then once I get back, I have to be super strict, super regimented. Like I'm in full prep mode and I can't enjoy food anymore, basically. And so I was going on this vacation with my friend. And this was my time to like, eat what I wanted and enjoy food and whatever. It's like everything had to be perfect, you know? I also have a fear that people can't meet my needs. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I have to choose the food places. I have to make sure that it's perfect. I don't trust that it's going to be good if someone else recommends it. I have to do all the research and basically just became super scary controlling on this trip. You know, I'd ask my friend, where would you like to go? And she would say something and then I would be like, okay, well, I think we should go here, you know? Because I mean, I had such a tight grip on everything because I was afraid what happens if the food wasn't good, you know? This is my one chance to enjoy it. And it put me in this freak mode where everything has to be perfect and it has to meet my expectations.
Yeah, I don't think that sounds crazy. I think it makes a lot of sense. And now I see what you mean by a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Like you were so regimented outside of this vacation that part of you probably desperately wanted to enjoy this moment so badly. And I'm wondering, is it one of those experiences where like in the moment you can feel yourself being controlling and you can see what's happening and you at the same time still can't stop? Or is it like you don't even notice?
Definitely aware of it. Especially now, I think on this trip specifically, there's so much fear there of not getting my needs met that it didn't matter. And as sucky as it sounds, I almost wasn't thinking about like, her experience, you know?
It sounds like you were in survival mode.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I meet my needs?
Yeah.
you know, because
No one else
got
is going to do it.
Yeah. So I think, again, I already have this fear of people. So in my past, when I rely on people, they've either like died, left, or simply have not been able to show up and meet my needs, you know? And so that was the pattern as I was developing. And I think I really learned to not lean on to people and trust people because of that. And so I have this fear where I have to take control because other people will not be able to meet my needs, you know? And so I already had that. And then going into um prep, like I already, that kind of just amplified everything, but specifically related to food habits. So, like, needing to go to the bathroom before I eat, or certain rules around food and meals in general, or how I consumed them, or when I could work out. Like, I could only eat this if I did this workout, you know? And so I just found myself making, I mean, this has been like not just prep, but before prep, where I would be doing all of these things, setting rules for myself just as a way to like, have control over things, you know? But again, it's like, it's controlling me, you know?
Right.
And so prep, again, amplified that. But yeah, you asked me like how I became aware of it. Like, one of my best friends, like specifically was like, I need a break. You always dictate everything and I just need time to like be my own person, basically. So yeah, that was obviously a hard hit to the face, you know?
Yeah, but also good on your friend for actually being direct enough to say
Yeah.
something, because that's kind of what you needed to hear. It sounds
Yeah, definitely. And I've had a few people give me that same feedback of, hey, I can't do anything for you because you don't receive it, you know? I remember even my partner he got me, I really love scones. And so he like, for my birthday, got me these like, this whole box of pastries. And I was like, oh, I already got my scone because I want the scone that I want, and I'm afraid that he wouldn't show up in this way. So I took initiation to get myself my birthday scone. And he then feels like, oh, my scones weren't good enough, or, you know, and so I would get the feedback of like, everything I do is not good enough for you, basically, you know, from multiple people. And you know, after one person or two people, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this is something that we need to address, you know?
Well, I think that says a lot about you too, because I think a lot of people in your position could easily ignore that and not think twice about it and write those people off. But you were intentional enough and self-aware enough and brave enough to actually go internal and be like, okay, maybe I need to look at how I'm showing up here. And not everyone will do that. A lot of people don't have the mental capacity or strength to look at themselves and actually question themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think though, like, when I take control, it's because I'm afraid I'm not going to get my needs met. But then I'm realizing that in taking control, I'm hurting people and not getting my needs met, you know? So it's like, I think really, I was really hurt by the people that like did walk away. Like that was hurtful because I'm like, why does this person not want to be my friend anymore? You know? Sure, I was able to look in, but also I really care to be the best person that I can be and constantly be bettering myself in whatever way I can. And especially if I'm in relationship with people, I don't want to be hurting them, you know? This friend that decided to set that boundary, we've been friends since middle school. I was heartbroken because my actions have caused her pain. Props to her for being able to confront it, you know?
Yeah. It sounds like it kind of it challenged you mentally and emotionally instead of physically.
Yeah.
What was it like switching into that more emotional mode? Because I would imagine if you're looking at yourself at that time, like now you are kind of having to get out of this physical space that maybe you were kind of hiding in for a minute. What was it like then switching over into the more emotional, strength-based space?
I think, I don't know if this really answers your question, but I almost have this weird compassion for myself, right? Like, you kind of have to in order to really become self aware and process and work through the things. You do need to try to understand maybe you're showing up the way that you are. So I think I used to receive like feedback a lot of like, oh, like when I first met you, I thought you were really intimidating or really harsh or, a bitch. And it's funny because I almost started to identify with that. Like I owned it kind of like my mom was kind of hard ass. So I was like, oh, like my mother's daughter. But really, I look at that person and that person is just a little Jada who's afraid to be vulnerable and loved by other people. So this like harshness or hardness really is a protection. And I think in order for me to be able to, again, break down these habits that are hurting me is like finding that compassion of like, okay, of course you are that way. Like, of course it makes sense that you show up this way and that you do feel the need to want to protect, but you don't have to, you know? And again, there were so many patterns that I created because of how I learned to cope or persevere through my situations that I'm like, okay, it definitely helped me when I was younger. I would have not been able to get through everything I did without having these beliefs. But now that I'm an adult, like it's also the very thing that is keeping me from connection from others. And I have to learn to let go of those things.
Yeah, I love everything you just said, honestly. And I think a lot of women can connect with that when you lose that trust in having your needs met, whether it's from family members, like childhood growing up or relationship experience, you do harden in a way to protect yourself. And I think a lot of women do get that feedback that they come across as intimidating or they look bitchy or whatever it is. Essentially, other ways of saying they just seem closed off.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for someone to come out of that when they're not practicing self compassion. And I think in dating culture, it's generalized as being in your masculine energy or your feminine energy. And really, it's just, you're scared of connecting. You're scared of trying to let someone be there for you. And you really are hard on yourself to keep yourself protected when really what you need to soften is that self compassion and that love that you didn't receive before.
Yeah, and honestly, to like lean in. I mean, and it's funny that you brought up like masculine energy because it's like, oh yeah, like I think we all have like masculine and feminine sides. And I always would lean into this toughness. And yeah, I think not only having self compassion, but sometimes it is really leaning into the feminine or to allowing the vulnerability to show up to help you break through those cycles.
Yeah, allowing yourself to receive, like you were saying earlier, that's a very feminine energy
Yeah.
that you have to practice when you're used to meeting your own needs.
Yeah. It gets easier.
Yeah.
It's funny because my partner, we started dating in college, and I remember when we first started dating, he was not at all my type, or at least what I thought was my type, because I also thought, oh, I need to be with this like super jacked masculine man, and he was more feminine, like his energy was more feminine, he was a lot more vulnerable and really in tune with his emotions. And it's funny because that was the very thing that I was afraid of, but because I was in that relationship, that is what helped me break down my walls almost. Like he demanded me to be more vulnerable, and so I had no choice in that relationship. But because that's how he was requiring me to show up, he was showing his emotions, and I needed to meet him there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
You liked the challenge, or maybe you were drawn to it.
Yeah, which is funny because I think I think a lot of times we lean towards familiarity or like things that feel comfortable. But yeah, it was so weird. Something about our relationship was so uncomfortable that I like, well, here we go, leaning into hard, always going after hard things again. But yeah, it really challenged me. I wouldn't be where I'm at as far as I feel like I'm a lot better at showing up more emotionally and with my feminine energy and being more vulnerable. And he is honestly a huge reason because of that. I had no other choice.
That's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of women that are out there that feel very self-protective, they're really dying to melt into someone and to finally feel safe enough to let that guard down. And the fact that you had someone that challenged you to do that
Yeah.
and created that space for you is so beautiful.
Yeah. Which brings up another thing for me. So, okay, going back to I am afraid that other people are going to meet my needs, right? So, from a young age, I had my own back. Like, in order for me to be successful and to get through things, I need to do things on my own, right? So, I had this almost toxic independency about me where I taught myself to believe that being in a relationship was weak, or like I can't be a successful badass woman while being in a relationship. And I used to believe that I needed to do all these things as an independent, whatever, and like really work through my shit and become this boss babe on my own. But what I've learned is I have actually learned more about myself and been able to become the person that I want to become and become a better partner through relationship, because there is another person that you're obviously in a relationship with, and they have their own needs, and their narrative and background is going to be so different, and it's going to require you to show up differently because of that. And you're having to almost face your own narrative in the process. And so I think being in relationship with other people is the very thing that's actually going to teach you to break through your own cycles and become a better partner.
100%. I feel like I get couples in here sometimes when we're doing therapy that will say, because we're having so many problems and it's so hard, it makes me start questioning, are we even compatible? Shouldn't it be easier than this? And I'm like, yeah, that's one way to look at it, but also what an amazing opportunity you guys are presenting to each other to challenge each other to actually work through your stuck points and your triggers. Like you're not going to get triggered outside of a relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need someone there to trigger you so you even have the opportunity to evolve and work on yourself.
Right. Because otherwise you get to just continue doing you.
Yeah. And if you're someone that really values personal growth and wants to become different or better or get somewhere else in life, get into a relationship that challenges you and that holds up a mirror to all of your biggest fears.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously
within reason.
Yeah, like don't be chasing red flags, ladies. But
yeah, that came out wrong, maybe. Yeah. But you know what I mean.
For sure. I mean, I think that's any relationship, though. You're not going to find a perfect relationship. And it's funny because there's this therapist that always used to say compatibility is an achievement. And although I do believe that there are other people that you should maybe not choose, I think ultimately at the end of the day, you and this person, you're not perfectly going to be compatible, and you have to give and take and show up differently in order to make it work,
Yeah, 100%.
Any relationship. Because we all are so different. It always would be that way,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we often can gravitate towards what's familiar too. So even in those relationships where opposites attract, I feel like you're still going to repeat patterns and make things feel familiar if you're not growth minded about it. You and your partner are not actively choosing certain. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
I get what you're saying. You're like, if you're not being mindful about the choices you're making and how you're both showing up and why, then you're going to create comfortable patterns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, relationships for me have been a journey. But because it did take a lot of breaking down patterns, because I was repeating cycles over and over and constantly getting the same result,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it definitely took a while. It took a lot of failing to really see it clearly and be able to make change.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey for sure.
I feel like this is also an area where people who are dating these days get really stuck, is they're repeating these unconscious patterns and they're getting the same results with every person that they date. And then you kind of get this mindset, oh, all men are this way, or they all suck, or they're all avoidant, or like XYZ. And at some point you're like, yeah, a lot of people are that way, but if you're constantly meeting the same people, getting the same results, it's not working out, and the cycle's repeating, at what point do you ask yourself, how am I showing up that's driving a part of this cycle? I think people, maybe they don't want to take responsibility for it, or maybe they don't even recognize that they have this power to show up differently and affect the way that that cycle plays out.
100%. Like, girlfriend, you are the common denominator in all of these, like, situations, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I think for me, I thought it was, this might be too vague, but like I thought it was one thing, but it was really another, kind of like
In your patterns?
in my patterns. I think I used to have a lot of doubts in my relationship of like, oh, like there's someone out there that's better. I'm in this current relationship, but you know, they aren't meeting my needs in this way. So maybe the grass is always greener, kind of. And I always told myself that, oh, he's the issue, right? Like, I mean, again, it took me a while, but I learned that it's not the lack of a person. It was me being afraid to lean into the relationship. Right? I made it about the other person, or I found flaws in the other person because I was afraid of commitment and settling down with one person. So I always had to find a reason not to, because not leaning into a person, not committing was safer. Because again, I have my own back and it's afraid to rely on other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these patterns, I thought it was one thing, but it was actually this thing over here, you know?
When you figured that out and finally recognized what was happening, what did you do in order to break that pattern? Because breaking patterns is excruciating at times.
Yeah. So back to not wanting to rely on other people. So both my parents passed away. I had multiple people taking care of me. Huh?
How old were you?
My dad was 4, and then my mom when I was 6th grade. Yeah, I don't remember how old I was. But so then I had my stepdad that my mom was married to at the time. He would provide this. And then I had my dad's mom, my grandma. She was my legal guardian. So she was the person that I went to for my finances. And like she kept all that organized. Then I had my grandma, my mom's mom, where like she was kind of my fun grandma and like told me and, you know, like provided other things. And then I had my friend that was over here and did this. And then my mother figure who did this. And like it turned into like I had multiple eggs in one basket. So I had multiple people that I could lean into, but not fully. Like I can do this to every person in my life, or like I can keep arm's length, you know, and not fully have to rely on one person to meet my needs. Because again, when I rely on one person, they die, leave, or not meet my needs. Yeah, so that became true in my adulthood because I was afraid to lean into one person. That is not going to work well in a monogamous relationship. So my cycle was creating relationships with other people so I didn't fully have to rely on one, you know? So that would be like talking to 2 guys at once or being emotionally connected to multiple people while being in a relationship with one person. That was also being way codependent on maybe my best friend and not fully leaning into my, you know, romantic partner. And there was one situation where I did make a connection with another person while I was in a relationship, and I hurt a lot of people in doing that. I mean, it's a whole story, but basically, like it I was in a situation where I was trying to decide if I was going to break up with my current partner, and I did not know what to do. I was so torn about what I should do. So I actually sought out guidance from a relationship therapist, and this person basically gave me an intervention and was like, look, this is what you're doing. You're thinking about breaking up with this person and leaning into this other person because you're afraid of vulnerability, and basically just like put it all out there. Like, it made it so, she said it exactly what was going on, and I connected with it in a way that I hadn't seen it before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am doing those things. These are why I'm doing that. And the only way for me to break this cycle is to do the very thing that I haven't done, and that is to lean fully into the one relationship, because I was putting my eggs in my best friend and in this other guy and in my grandparents, and I have to lean into one person, to break through that cycle. And what that looked like was for me to, at the time I was doing long distance, I was in a different state. So it required me to move back to my home state and be with my partner.
Wow.
Which I don't think I would have been able to break that cycle if I hadn't made that move, And I don't think that was my experience, right? Like, I don't think that's the case. Like, I would not encourage someone to fully lean into one person and like there, that could be dangerous, right? That's where you get like controlling, whatever. But it's like, because that was the one thing that I needed to do to like break through that. And that doesn't mean not having boundaries with your partner or like.
No, obviously it was someone you trusted.
Right. Yeah. But I think for me, it was always about being on my own and being independent. And so it needed to happen for me to like actually rely on a safe person or lean into a safe person.
Yeah.
And
how did it feel? Did it feel different than you thought it would? Did it feel easier than you thought? Harder?
I mean, I was fucking terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing is like, when we're supposed to do things like that are uncomfortable, you are going to find every reason not to. So I was sabotaging the fuck out of it. Everything in me, it was like so against like my whole everything, my upbringing, my beliefs about myself, and it was so triggering that I would choose to lean into the relationship. It was like, okay, I'm going to move back for him. And then a week would go by and be like, maybe I won't. Like, I'm going to stay here. And it was so back and forth, and I could not make my mind because I was so afraid to do that very thing,
Oh, man.
I even remember moving back to Minnesota, where I'm from, like choosing to this relationship. And I was still like second guessing it,
So you just had to do it scared.
Just had to do it scared. Yeah. And even after I moved, I was still obviously in a raw place. And you don't just make the move and then, oh, great, everything's fine. Like, it's a process, and it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to mess up. And yeah, I think obviously now 3-4 years later, it's like I'm on the other side of it, and I see so clearly what I was doing and how I was sabotaging. And I'm like, God, if I only knew, And even after I moved, like continuing to want to sabotage, but
I mean, that makes so much sense. Your body, your nervous system had to relearn that this can be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was doing everything it could to protect you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That's where I really believe in like fake it till you make it. Like, sometimes when you make a choice, you might not love that choice, but you just keep one foot in front of the other and stepping into that choice. You will eventually break that cycle, and like
100%.
it will,
And it's not going to feel like you have this moment of clarity. And I think a lot of people feel like, I'm going to have this moment of clarity, and then I'm going to logically understand what I'm doing, and that I'm going to be able to just fix it. And it's like, no, you're going to come to this realization logically and understand it. And then you're going to have to feel it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to feel your way through it.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt. And it's going to be hard. And everything in you is going to be telling you no. Like, your body might feel lit on fire at times, trying to protect you and telling you to go the other way, even though logically this is the right move.
Yeah.
And people don't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is part of the process, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely took me a while, even after moving.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a while to get to the other side of like seeing it for what it was, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, that was a very, very hard time.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that's really encouraging though for people to hear because there aren't a lot of examples out there of what this process looks like. Culture these days is like go to therapy, work on yourself, figure yourself out. But I think everybody gets so caught up in trying to understand themselves that we have a problem with everybody knowing what's going on with them and prescribing themselves and nobody actually knowing how to feel it.
yeah,
And feeling it's the hardest part,
yeah.
but feeling it and failing and being okay with failing and redoing it is where you actually push through and learn.
Yeah. And I think, again, my tendency is to almost not feel it, like to avoid it. And that's where this is when I was in bodybuilding and like prep. And like, that's why there was such this strong urge to lean into diet and exercise, was because that has always served as my vice. And I had just moved back from this relationship. There were so many uncontrollables. I did something I never did. I was like, my whole, like you said, nervous system was just like whacked, you know? And so controlling and making rules about my food patterns was what helped me like cope, you know? And that's where I'm like, okay, and that's when we went too far into that direction. And that's where you get the disordered eating. And, you know, but that was kind of why too a lot of this was also flared up or
Yeah.
you know.
I think this also reminds me that this is that part of the process where your nervous system's like on fire and trying to protect you. That's also where the tool of self compassion is so important. And a lot of people don't learn that as part of their journey, but self compassion will protect you in this process. When you're failing, when you're not getting it right, when everything in you wants to protect you and tell you to run the other way, self compassion and being able to like hold yourself in that space and care for yourself and recognize that, like, right, this is that moment where I don't feel safe. Like, what am I needing? What part of me needs to be held, understood? What part of me needs to be accepted right now? That's where self-compassion can really come in and protect you from turning to other vices or going too far in the opposite direction of trying to grasp for control, is when you find this radical acceptance within yourself that you just need safety and that's why you're freaking out and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think a lot of addiction or any unwanted behavior is like there's a shame cycle with it. And I think that's why a lot of times we continue to repeat it, is because of the shame. And to your point, it is about labeling it, having compassion, or like trying to understand, and then followed by that compassion, and then take it a step further. It's like, okay, yes, I have compassion for myself. And how do we move forward? Because now that you are aware, that requires you to you're accountable and you have to take responsibility. And I think a lot of people kind of write it off as like, that's just me, you know, and not really actually do anything about it. And that's where you really need to like actually, okay, yeah, that might be you and was helping you cope and whatever, but it's not a like you having a reason for it isn't kind of a write-off to not deal with your issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was trying to think about how to say that nicer, but I'm like, no, you need to fucking just deal with your shit, you know?
I feel that way. I get this way too. And I had a friend recently that I was talking to about this, and he kind of like helped me come off my high horse about it, if you will, because I get really frustrated when I see people I care about say, like, that's just how I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it like lights a fire in me that I just want to inject them with whatever they need to like have courage. I hate it, but he kind of helped me realize like people that are saying that might also just not have the capacity to wake up to it yet.
Yeah.
And that has to be okay too on some level.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch.
Yeah. But it's like, okay, but how long does that go? Because some people never fucking wake up.
I don't know, because I'm kind of biased, because I think I'm very aligned with you in that, like, I want like that directness.
Yeah.
I show up that way as a therapist and as a friend, and I've actually had to tamper it down as a friend. But like, I want all the information in front of my face so I can make the decision and like do better. And I've had to realize that's also though part of my coping mechanism of like trying to outgrow and like outperform my issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are maybe on the other opposite side of the spectrum of that. And that's the people that kind of say, oh, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And they need a much softer approach to like making change. And they might need like a hell of a lot more self-compassion to feel motivated to make that change.
Yeah.
For someone like myself who deeply appreciates directness and things to be presented matter of fact, it irks me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, like, I am also someone who really appreciates like directness, and it doesn't always work the first time.
Yeah.
You know, like I did repeat the same cycles over and over and had, you know, like people say stuff. But I'm like also really stubborn in that like I'm like, okay, but is it right over here? How about up here? Like, you know, I have to like test the water.
Are we sure?
Are we sure? You know?
Let me ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, no, exactly. And because I think even when I was in that situation where I was trying to choose the relationship and move back, like although I knew what I was doing, like I would continue to sabotage, and it took me so long for me to finally like wake up and, you know, just fully lean into my decision, you know, which like I already said, but like it did take me so long. So like I do have understanding, and it's like, but yeah, how long? I mean, what is it going to take for someone to take accountability and, you know, again, change the narrative, change what happens next, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. I don't know that one. Honestly, that's one that I've struggled with a lot. But I'm trying to have more compassion. Like, they have their own system, their own issues that cause them to show up that way. They may just need a different approach.
Yeah.
I am not probably the person that's going to approach them in the way that they need.
Well, I mean, and it could literally be like, it's just like coaching, you know, like, or like fitness coaching. Like sometimes it's just the wrong cue, you know, you could literally say the exact same thing, but just like different, like you say it kind of differently, and all of a sudden it hits, you know.
100%. I think we think about that too, like in the therapy world of like, I'm not going to be the right therapist for everybody, but maybe something I say to someone, even though it might like set them off and they never want to see me again, maybe it planted a seed.
Yeah.
And the next therapist I have hopefully will say it differently in a way that finally lands. But it's like planting seeds.
Yeah.
And everyone just has to show up for how they are as a coach, as a therapist, like as a teacher. You just have to bring it the way you bring it, and people that connect with it will, and just hope for the best that other people will at least have that seed planted, so the next time they hear it, hopefully it lands for them in a better way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, which is like so frustrating. But also like I mean, I still have, you can kind of have peace with that, because it's like you're still serving like your purpose, sort of like you're helping the greater good of this person in some way. It might not have been like the cherry on top of the ice cream, but like it's contributing, you know. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. And it can get really frustrating when you see it not hitting. And it'll ding something in me at times where I'm just like, do I suck as a therapist? Like, am I awful? Am I saying everything wrong? Like when someone's coming in week after week and not changing or making change, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? That's not landing right. But then you find yourself sort of like over functioning and overworking for this person, and you have to take a step back and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why am I showing up more than this person is?
Yeah. Yeah, actually. But I mean, and that just kind of, that shows you like, I mean, obviously you care. That's something to do with you being good at what you're doing.
Okay, I have another question for you, for the audience. What do you wish more people knew about themselves and their own strength?
I think that humans are supposed to overcome hard things. Like life is not easy, and it's not supposed to be, you know? But if you look, the people that really do have a lot of meaning in their life are people who've usually been through a lot of shit. And so I'm not saying go do crazy things, but really challenge yourself in whatever way that looks like, you know, whether that is choosing the relationship, or maybe it's walking away from the relationship, maybe it's 118-mile bike race, but like, find that confidence and strength within yourself from the things that you're really challenged by, like the process of actually going through something difficult and overcoming that is what makes us stronger. I mean, think about, sorry, I am a personal trainer, but like that is literally how a muscle building process works. In order to grow muscle, you have to tear it apart. Like when you lift, it is breaking down the muscle and it builds up bigger. That is literally how you build muscle, So, I mean, it's like the same thing in our everyday life. Is like, in order to build the strength, you have to overcome challenge,
Yeah, I love that. Like, trust that you can break down and that you'll come out, like, trust the process, basically, that you'll come out on the other side stronger.
Yeah.
And just let yourself experience it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, I have some fun rapid fire questions.
Oh, no.
Okay, go-to pump-up song before a race or a tough workout.
I want to say Buzz by Hermitude.
Oh, I haven't heard it.
Yeah, it's like not really a pump-up song. It's more like vibey, and for whatever reason, it just like gets me feeling a certain type of way.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go listen to it now.
Like people are gonna listen to it and be like, "What the fuck was this chick thinking?" But yeah, for whatever reason, I love this song. It's like just vibey.
Okay, yeah.
I feel powerful.
I'm gonna check it out. Okay, favorite post-workout snack or meal?
Scone and a nitro cold brew.
Ooh, I love a nitro cold brew. So
it hits.
Good. Fitness trend you secretly love or love to hate?
Hybrid.
Hybrid?
Yeah, like I was so anti-hybrid because that's really trendy right now, like hybrid training. But it really, all hybrid is like functionality in a bunch of different fitness domains. So being able to hop into any fitness challenge and be able to like kind of crush, It's all about being able to be good at multiple sports, basically. I would say, to answer your question, the hybrid trend.
Okay, what's a book or podcast that's changed the way you think?
I listen to a lot. Like, I listen to Mind Pump a lot. Mind Pump is a health and fitness podcast, and it honestly, like, didn't really change the way I think, but it did a little bit. Mind Pump taught me a lot about what I know about training and like being a good trainer and coach. And I think it's against like a lot of what the fitness media says. Like they kind of contradict a lot of what fitness media says. Like, I think for the longest time, everyone thought, oh, to be healthy, I need to move more and eat less. And like, okay, you could break down the details and the science of that technically. Yeah, that's how you get smaller. But like, actually, a lot of people really need to like eat more to build, right? And exercise less because they're overdoing it. And I wouldn't say that to like the gen pop or like everyday person, but yeah, it's I think a lot of what we believe to be like healthy isn't, and Mind Pump kind of like exposes and talks about that.
Oh, that's cool.
I love that. Exclude this because this is more just like a geeky fitness response.
It's not geeky. It's good. The question's geeky. It's a book or podcast that's changed.
Fair. There's a lot of things that have helped me change how I see things.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
If you weren't in fitness, what would you be doing?
I'd be a therapist.
Oh yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I would definitely. I think I wanted to be a therapist before I found fitness. I'm like, fitness is basically the same thing, just underpaid,
Yeah, what's funny is if I wasn't a therapist, I always say I would be into nutrition.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. All right, last one. What's a mantra or phrase you come back to when things get hard?
Oh, no. I have this tattooed on my back, but things do work out for the good,
That one, yeah.
Yeah, things always work out.
Where can people connect with you and learn more about Live Purpose Driven?
Well, I would say my Instagram, however, I am horrible at responding to DMs. Here's the thing, I usually do respond, it just like takes me a minute.
I will vouch for this. Well, I think I'm also bad. You and I are equally bad at responding to text messages or DMs.
Here's the thing, like, I'm intentional in what I do. Like, I am fully, as soon as you show up, like, I am
here,
so
we're doing it,
hot,
we're
you
in
know.
it.
But yeah, I also have, obviously I have a website. It is trainpurposedriven.com. My Instagram for live purpose driven or just Jada McNamara. I respond to both of them eventually.
Live Purpose Driven on Instagram.
Yes.
There is a link on there for Train Purpose Driven, your website,
Okay,
where they can work with
perfect.
you. I saw it earlier.
Yes, yes.
And I will also link it below in the show notes. Well, I appreciate you being here today. Thanks for
Yeah.
being so raw and real. I didn't know where that was going to go today, but I love where it ended up.
Oh, like similar to you, like you asked, like I'm willing to share, you know, because I think like going through the things I have, like can really also help other people, you know. And I think like at least that's what helped me is like when people are really real, like that's what you can connect to. I know that when people are really real with me and like talk about the low, hard shit, that's when I've been able to really connect with other people and, you know, grow because of it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.